Hi, I am Dr. Prashant Kumar Vardhan, Professor, Mechanical Engineering Department, GIS College of Engineering, Kollani. Today, my subject topic is Advanced Welding Technology, ME 703A. You have already learned about the welding processes in advanced in manufacturing process and the second year. Today, will deal with the welding technology and classification of welding and process of welding, advantages of welding, disadvantages of welding, application of welding, merits, demerits, and also defects in welding and remedies. So we'll start with the introduction. That is today's lecture. Today's content is syllabus of the course, definition of welding, history of welding, common welding base material, general advantage of welding, general disadvantage of welding, welding as compared to casting, welding as compared to riveting, practical application of welding. Various types of metal joining process are there. That is, one is mechanical joining, bolts and nuts, screw joints, riveting joints. Number two, adhesive bonding, epoxy resins, silicon resins, elastomers. These are applied in plastic materials, joining plastic materials. Third is welding, brazing, and soldering. Mostly we will deal with these subjects is welding. According to lesson plan, total 36 classes are there. Number one, today's lecture introduction and basic processes. Number two, review of welding processes. Number three, joint design, process description, parametric influence on welding. Number four, arc welding, that is sealed metal arc welding, submerged arc welding. Number five lecture, gas metal arc welding, is MIG welding. Number six class, gas tungsten arc welding, it is TIG. So according to this 36 classes are there, we will cover syllabus within these 36 classes. Textbooks. O.P. Khanna, the textbooks of welding technology, Dhanpat Rai and Sons. R.S. Kumar, welding engineering and technology, Khanna Publishers. M. Bhattacharya, weldment design, the Association of Engineers, India Publications. J.C. Dippold and T.J. Koteki, welding metallurgy and weldability of stainless steels, Welding India Private Limited, New Delhi. Udin, Frank, and Wolf, welding for engineers, John Willie and Sons. J.L. Morris, welding processes and procedures. We'll follow these books. So introduction. Welding. In general, it is a process of joining two material plates and make an integrated one. The large bulk of materials that are welded are metals and their alloys. The welding is also applied to the joining of other materials, such as thermoplastics. In welding, heat is supplied either by electric arc or by a gas torch or by some other means. The most essential requirement is heat, but in some process, pressure is also employed. History of welding. From the Middle Ages, blacksmiths of the Middle Ages welded various types of iron tools by hammering. That is basically forge welding. They Welding methods remains more or less unchanged until the dawn of the 19th century. Late 19th century, engineers and scientists applied advances of electricity to heat and join metals. Early 20th century, prior to First World War, welding was not trusted as a method to join two metals due to crack issues. 1930s and 40s, industrial welding gains acceptance and is used extensively in the war effort to build tanks, aircrafts, ships, etc. The use of welding in today's technology is very extensive. It is a remarkable rise since 1930. 20th century, from that is 1900 onwards, coated metal electrode was first introduced by Stavanger. A coating helps the arc to be much more stable and increases the arc forces also. A number of other welding processes were developed during this period, that is seam welding, spot welding, flash part welding, and projection welding. In 1919, after the end of First World War, the American Welding Society was established by Concord Avery Adams. The aim of the society was the advancement of welding processes. In 1920, automatic welding was first introduced, which was invented by P.O. Noble of General Electric. In 1930, the Newark Navy Yard developed stud welding. Stud welding was increasingly used for the construction industry and also for shipbuilding. In 1940, gas tungsten alcohol welding was another significant milestone in the history of welding, which was developed in Battelle Memorial Institute in 1948. In 1960, there were several advancements in the welding industry during 1960s. Electrostatic welding, plasma arc welding were invented during this time. In 1991, Welding Institute invented friction state welding. It is a solid state joining process which utilizes frictional heat of a rotating tool and steering effect of the tool probe for solid state joining. The use of welding in today's technology is extensive. Now, welding, according to American Welding Society, definition of welding process is a material joining process which produces coalitions of materials by heating them to suitable temperature with or without the application of pressure and with or without the use of filler material. The filler material, if used, has a melting temperature similar to the parts being joined. Welding is used for making permanent joints. Application, it is widely used as a fabrication and repairing process in industries like fabrication of ships, pressure vessels, automobile bodies, offshore platform, bridges, welded pipes, sealing of nuclear fuel, and explosives, etc. The use of welding in today's technology is extensive. This growth is faster than general industrial growth. General advantages of welding. A good weld is as strong as the base metal. General welding equipment is not very costly. Probable welding equipment is also available. Welding permits considerable freedom in design. A large number of metal alloys, both similar and dissimilar, can be joined by welding. Welding can join workpieces by spots as continuous pressure-tight seams, end-to-end, and in number of other configurations. Welding can be mechanized. General disadvantage of welding. Welding gives out harmful radiations, that is, X-rays, lights, ultraviolet rays, fumes, and spatters. Welding results in residual stasis and distortion of workpieces due to heat. Jigs and fixtures are generally required to hold and position the parts to be welded. A skilled welder is a must to produce a good welding jobs. Welding heat produces metallurgical changes. The structure of the welded joints is not same as that of the parent metals. A welded joint, for many reasons, needs stress relief heat treatment. Common welding base material. Metals can be classified as ferrous and non-ferrous. Ferrous material found in day-to-day welding applications are, well, number one is wrought iron, whose carbon is less than 0.035. Number two, cast irons, carbon and silicons are 2.3 to 4.5 and 0.5 to 3% respectively. Carbon steel, low carbon, that is 0.05 to zero point 0.3. Medium carbon steel, that is 0.3 to 0.59. And high carbon steel, that is 0.6 to 1.5 carbon. Cast steel, carbon contains between 0.2 to 2.1 by weight, by percentage weight, depending on the grade, and also other alloying elements, manganese, chromium, vanadium, tungsten. Stainless steel also can be welded, that is more than 18% chromium, etc. Also, for non-ferrous material, copper-based alloy, aluminum, other materials also can be joined by welding. Welding as compared to casting. Machine tool blade which were earlier cast are now fabricated using welding. In many fields, welding has replaced casting processes. Some of the reasons for the same as follows. Welding is more economical and is a much faster process as compared to casting. Fabricated mild steel structures are lighter as compared to cast ones. Fabricated mild steel structures have more tensile strength and rigidity as compared to cast ones. Cost of pattern and storing is eliminated. For casting, pattern is required and that is eliminated. Welding as compared to casting. As compared to casting, fewer persons are involved in a welding fabrications. Structural shapes not easily obtainable with casting can be produced by welding with much difficulty. Welding design involves low cost and it is very flexible also. Fabrication by welding saves machining cost involving cast parts. Welding as compared to riveting. Bridges, ships, boilers which were previously riveted are now welded. Welding is more economical and is a much faster process as compared to riveting. Welded pressure vessels are more pressure tight as compared to riveted ones. Ratio between weight of weld metals and the entire weight of structure is much lesser than the ratio between the weight of the rivets and entire weight of the structure. Cover plates, connecting angles, cassette plates, etc. needed in riveted construction are not required when welding is done. Members of such shapes that present difficulty for riveting can be easily welded. Welding can be carried out at any point on a structure, but riveting always requires enough clearance to be done. A welded structure possesses a better finish and appearance than corresponding riveted structure. Layout for punching and drilling of holes is not required in welding. That is practical application of welding. Welding has been employed in industry as a tool for regular fabrication of automobile cars, aircrafts, refrigerators, ships, offshore structure, etc. Repair and maintenance work, that is joining broken parts, rebuilding worn out components, etc. A few important applications of welding are listed below. Aircraft construction, A. Welded engine mounts, B. Turbine frames for jet engines, C. Rocket motor, fuel tanks and fittings, etc. Automobile construction, arc welded car wheels, frame side rails, automobile frame, brackets, etc. Bridges, piers, constructions, section lengths, etc. For building, column base plates, trusses, erection of structure, etc. For pressure vessels and tanks, clad and lined steel plates. B. Sail construction, joining of nozzle to the sail, etc. For storage tanks, oil, gas, water storage tanks. For railroad equipments, rail, underframe, air receiver engines, etc. For piping and pipelines, a roll plates piping, open piping joints, oil, gas, and gasoline pipelines, etc. For ships, sail frame, deck and bulkhead stiffeners, girder to sails, etc. For truck and trailers, machine tools frames, cutting tools and dies, household and office furniture. In addition, arc welding finds various applications in repair and maintenance work. There are basically two types of joining processes. One is mechanical bonding, another is atomic bonding. Mechanical bonding classifications: temporary with screw elements, permanent, semi-permanent, that is rivets, stitches, staples, shrink fit. Number two is atomic bonding classification, that is welding. Classification of welding. Welding classification can be done based on the following aspects: depending on the source of heat, depending on the application of pressure, depending on the different phases of base and filler materials, depending on the composition of the joints, depending on the position of electrodes, depending on the mechanisms. The welding classifications. Basically, welding can be classified in two welding processes. That is, one is pressure welding and another is non-pressure welding. Non-pressure welding is most of the non-pressure welding is fusion welding, and 95%, 90% welding is done by fusion welding. Another pressure welding is solid state welding. So this is the divided, and fusion welding is a more of the welding processes are fusion welding. Now, oxy-fuel gas welding, say one type of fusion welding, air acetylene, oxyacetylene, oxyhydrogen, arc welding, gas metal arc welding, manual metal arc welding, gas tungsten arc welding, plasma arc welding, cylinder metal arc, starred arc, submerged arc, carbon arc, flux core arc welding. Next, solid state welding. That is diffusion welding, explosive welding, forge welding, friction welding, hot pressure welding, roll welding, ultrasonic welding. Now this resistance welding, flash welding, percussion welding, projection welding, resistance seam, resistance spot, offset welding. Other welding processes and allied processes are electron beam welding, electrostatic welding, induction welding, laser welding, thermite welding, etc. Number three, heterogeneous welding is some joining processes, brazing and soldering. Deep brazing, furnace induction brazing, infrared brazing, resistance brazing, soldering, soft soldering, and hard soldering. Types of welding, depending on the different phases of base and filler materials. There are three categories. One is liquid state welding, solid state welding, and another third is liquid solid state. That I have told that heterogeneous welding, it is brazing and soldering is there. Now, liquid state welding, all fusion welding is under liquid state welding. And solid state welding, friction welding, ultrasonic welding, diffusion welding, forge welding, roll welding, explosive welding. Depending on the composition, three types are there: autogeneous, homogeneous, and heterogeneous. Autogeneous, no filler material is added during this joint. All type of solid state, solid phase welding, resistance welding, and non-consumable welding, autogeneous welding. And homogeneous composition, there is composition of filler materials are used during this joining is same as the parent metals, that is gas welding, arc welding, thermite welding, all are same parent metals. Heterogeneous welding, that is soldering and brazing. Composition of filler materials used during this joining is different as the parent metals. Now, welding processes, as I have told already, the classification is fusion welding and solid phase welding. Two types basically. We can divide into the fusion welding involves melting and solidification. Solid state welding, explosive bonding, diffusion welding, friction welding. Fusion welding, the types of fusion welding is gas welding, arc welding. And arc welding, there are several welding processes. TIG welding, MIG welding, plus or arc welding, submerged arc welding, etc. There is thermite welding, spot welding, and precision welding is electron beam welding, laser beam welding, ultrasonic welding, plasma welding. Fusion welding. Commonly used processes, fusion very commonly used processes, heat source, electric arc, gas flame, laser. Filler material, electrode, rods, wires, powders, fluxes. Independently added filler, and some case no filler, autogeneous welding. So we have completed this today's lecture. So welding is a vast subject. American Welding Society, we follow the American Welding Society guidelines. All the manufacturing, all the construction, all fabrication works are done through the specification of American Welding Society. So next class, we'll discuss the different welding processes. Thank you very much. Okay.